Once again, the mystery remains in the four walls of that house. I keep sensing that. I keep sensing the very mystery of what it is remains within the four walls of that house. Like police, I said this before. The police, I don't think, or they have yet to actually in fact go within the four walls of that home to actually scope out with a UV black light to see if there is sperm or even blood particle matters on the wall or even on the bed, as in Asia's bed. See, we are all questioning these things. I get on these groups and everybody is questioning, but this very thing no one has ever mentioned except for me, myself. I'm trying to think of what movie that was. I can't remember if Paula Abdul, somebody was in a movie back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was a TV film and somebody got killed in their house and blood was splattered on the walls, but police didn't find out till later. It took them taking one of those black UV lights in order to find out that that was in fact the thing that had happened, the situation. Blood being on the walls, yes, and sperm. I was a child when that movie came out, and yet I will never forget it because it spooked me out. But something clicked in my mind. The police still need to go back in the four walls of that house and scope it out with a black light. Go all throughout the house. Go through the living room with the black light. Go through the kitchen with the black light. Go all over the flooring from top to the bottom of that house. Even check the ceiling. Because you never know where a body could in fact be found somewhere within that house. You just never know. And also the floorboard. I'm in question of a floorboard. The floorboard, because I was reading a story that took place last year. Some man out in California supposedly killed his wife. His mugshot looked like he was crazy. It did. I'm not trying to judge. But this man supposedly murdered his wife and then went out and I guess was about to be on his way to murder some other people. But he buried his body's wife in the floorboard of his house. Which mean, see, I'm not trying to overanalyze something, but to put some pieces together where they might in fact work as in fit is to help out in the area of trying to find out, how do you put a body? See, when I Googled that, I was like, wait a minute. This man literally took the time to kill his wife, to put his wife in the floorboard of a house. That don't even make, I mean, for me, because let me tell you, I throw myself in as an example to help you understand how to analyze a situation. See, we, in fact, me, my mother, as well as her boyfriend that she had, whatever, we in fact owned a house, right? Which you can call a shack, and yet it was a nice house. We in fact owned a house, and this house had a basement. So if somebody was to take a situation, as I look through our house, take a situation of, say, hiding a body or something like that. I'm saying, I'm looking at Asia's family. I'm thinking, in order, if I take my home situation as in the layout of the flooring, and if I was to try to hide a body within the house like that man hid his wife in California, there will be no way for me to be able to hide a body unless, say, it's in the basement, right? How our house was laid out. But I think a person can in fact hide the body of a child if that home doesn't have a basement. Does Asia house have a basement? This is what I'm in question of. Because see, if a house has really no upstairs and downstairs, I can't really see somebody having a basement and them hiding their child in their basement. Maybe they could. Because in the past, there's been stories like that in the news, right? But the floorboard, seeming she was a tiny child. She wasn't big. She was only, what, 60 pounds? For what they say that she was, 4'6", 60 pounds. So that's not really that big. 60 pounds is really not that much. I had a 70-pound dog, German Shepherd. So 60 pounds is really not that much. He was big enough for me to pick him up, is what I'm trying to say. So to live in a house and say kill somebody as your own child and possibly hide that body in your house and yet throw all her book bag and everything else away from the house, as well as some pants and her bows and some candy wrappers and that marker and that pencil, to throw it away from the house is to deflect that you could have in fact did that very crime. I'm saying the parents, if they had something to do with it. In order, let me see. Let's think this out. Because the question is to be good and to find out. If you got a house and once again try to hide a body in the house so it can't be found, I'm thinking somewhere in the floorboard, then that house in a sense can't have a basement. As in nothing stands underneath it going through. Like a hole, if somebody took the time to say open up the floor, whatever. People do that type of stuff. You done seen enough scary movies to know, which is why I had to stop watching many scary movies. To pull open a floor, say even in a living room or even in a child's bedroom, and put the floor back or something like that and put the carpet on top or whatever to cover up, is to know up under that floor something could have not stood there, as in a basement itself, in a sense. Does Asia's house, where she lived in a family that never moved, see, it could be a reason why the family never even moved. You never know. Because even to move away is to find details which lay within the four walls of that house. If say they in fact buried that girl through a hole through the floor, I need somebody to answer me on this. Because I looked around to see if I can find pictures of the house on Google, and I didn't find anything of trying to figure out, does that house have a bottom floor, as in a basement, as underneath it, or is it just a one house flat, like a ranch style house? Because see, I'm gonna have to even Google that even more, the layout flooring of a ranch style house, because I don't even know and think, or maybe they do. Ranch style houses have a basement. Because let me see, because my mom one time was interested in buying a house after that house that we were looking at, and it was somewhat of a smaller mini size house, right? And yet it had the style of a ranch style house, right? But the house didn't have a basement. So basically, that was one of the reasons why we didn't get the house, is because those type of houses is prone to keep moisture up underneath the house. I can't even think of the name of the house, but their style kind of like ranch style houses. Somebody knows, somebody that's listening to this when I get done recording and they listen to it, they're gonna know what type of house I'm talking about. It's a house that's just one floor throughout the house. It could have an upstairs, but more likely it doesn't have a downstairs, as in a basement, because it's all set on one floor. And so up underneath that house, it's prone sometimes to carry wetness, because there's really no place for that moisture to go. See, to have a basement is for that moisture within that house to circulate all within that basement. But not only that, you can in fact open a window down in the basement, like crack it, for the air to seep out. But with these type of houses on which I'm speaking on, which my mom wanted to buy, that house didn't have a basement. So that would oppose the issue of us getting mold to even live there, which is why she chose not to buy the house. Because if moisture can't escape the house, then that means that moisture is stuck under the ground of the house, and it will slowly deteriorate the house through mold because of moisture traveling upstairs. You got to study this type of stuff even before you buy a house, because if you don't, you'll end up with a disaster of mold. But moving on, Um, I wish I knew the name of the house, the very house. But even if some police officer see this video, he'll know what I'm talking about a house where it's just an all flat house with no basement. He'll know what I'm saying, even in the moisture area. So say if Asia Degree, seeming I can't find no photos of her house, and I have yet to really see any detail as in the inside of her house, the four walls, or anything to do with. I seen the mother standing outside of somebody's house. It was like a brick house, but I don't know if that was her house. Maybe it was the grandmother's house. Who knows? It just looked like a brick house is all I can say. So going back to what I was saying, what is the layout of Asia Degree's family's house? What is the layout, even the flooring layout of that house? Of where she stayed, even in the middle of the night. What is the layout of this house? See, because to own a house or rent from a house or whatever these type of people do, to live within the four walls of a house is to have a floor, as in going up underneath that floor of what stands under it. If say somebody was to kill somebody like that man in California, that was the most craziest thing I've ever heard, which is why I spoke about it in the one video that I made about the floorboard. To hide a body is a possibly what? Hide it in a floorboard of where it can't be found, say outside of the house, right? Let me think. The best way, see, the reason why I mentioned that house about my mom was going to buy with it not having a bottom, as in it being just dirt up underneath it. Those type of houses that I spoke on, the house that is just one floor level, and yet it might have an upstairs, but it don't have a basement, but it has a kitchen and everything else, right? Those type of houses a lot of times have just dirt as well as some type of insulation up under those houses. And I've seen the picture. I had to, in order to try to understand the very detail of that house before we tried to buy it. You know what I'm saying? There's in fact some type of insulation that goes within up underneath the house, I guess for wintertime to keep whatever the heat in or whatever. But as I said before, up under those type of houses is nothing but dirt. It's nothing but dirt. And say if there's complications, we was told this, if you have a complication with that home, sometimes a man has to go up under that house in order to maintain where there could possibly be a leak, which could lead to moisture damage traveling through the house, up through the walls and stuff like that. That type of stuff, like I said before, you have to investigate even that. Because it just, I don't know, something is not right about that house. Because say even if that little boy knew that his parents killed his sister, he probably possessed a body small enough to go through that very cubby hole, and supposedly the cubby hole to go up under that house like that isn't completely as small. Especially if I'm told a man sometimes can go down there to do maintenance to make sure there's no water damage that can spread through the house. So if a man's body is big enough, it's to know that a young boy's, such as a child body, is big enough to possibly even travel up under the house enough to hide a dead girl's body, as in his sister, for his parents, I'm saying. If all three of them played a part in this, the brother could actually be a part of it, as in hiding her body up underneath the house, or maybe the father hiding up under the house. Because if you look at the mother's weight, she's too big enough to even try to go, as in fit underneath the house. That mother's too big in weight, is what I'm trying to say. To look at something for what it is, it's just to look at it as in show, as in to be recognized. She's kind of, yeah, big, like as in plump, as in a no-go trying to climb underneath somebody's house. That type of thing you would either do by a man that does handiwork, or you would have a child go up under there with, say, like a bag that kind of represents a body bag. Maybe the family even put the girl's body in a bag in some type of way, or even a sheet. That's why I said these type of things got to be looked into. Maybe the family wrapped her body up in a sheet and had the little brother or the big brother, however old he was, more than her, drag that dead body and put it down in that hole where sometimes handymen go fix on their house if their house is actually laid out like that, where there's no basement underneath it. Somebody has to check into that. They need to check and see, does that house have a basement? And if it doesn't, they need to even strip down there, as in the police going down there. See, because a polygraph test is not enough in my eyes. It's not. I had to even research on that. They said supposedly people can actually pass a polygraph by just relaxing their bodily muscles to not be found out, because the best way supposedly through a polygraph test is to be full of anxiety taking a test. So I guess one of the best ways to pass that is to be relaxed enough to not be found and discovered. That's crazy. That's enough to scare you right there, because that makes you think here in society how many people have actually passed the polygraph test and have walked right past us here in society. I don't like stuff like that. I always repeat, because I don't like things like that. It's criminals amongst us. That stuff is just off the hook. So, seeming nobody else is seeming to question that house, it's my position today to question that house. As in the setup, the layout, the black UV light, everything with that house. Going in the four walls. I know in order for police to do a criminal investigation, a lot of times they must have a warrant presented in order to, say, search or research the house. I'm wondering from the very beginning, did they even search that house? I'm saying they probably walked throughout the kitchen, the bedroom, the living room. You know, they probably done did maybe a 20-minute search within the four walls of the house and said, okay, she's nowhere in here. And then they probably just focused on the outside, as in the tracking, to see was she outside. Because to have some dogs is to sniff around, right? But it seemed like somebody within that team of trying to find and locate, as in the police, they didn't search enough within the four walls of that house. They couldn't have. Because a real team would take a black light and go all throughout that house to look for sperm, look for blood, look for any and everything. Possibly look for a ghost awaiting them if she's dead. Yes, believe me when I say. Believe me when I say, to do a real life job to find a true crime is to really search for it. As in burrowing, looking away in places you wouldn't have even considered. See, this type of thing came to my mind because I'm like, man, the family, their behavior is too odd and strange. See, to be far away from something and not even be in the same city and state, and yet to watch these people on the television, say, as in pulling them up even on a YouTube. Yes, YouTube is TV too. Even pulling them up and seeing their actions and how they sit in the photo, is to know nothing is there, as in could be found, as even behind their eyes. Some of these people's eyes behind it look blank, as in possibly a killer being involved, as in a psychopath, sociopath, psychopath, whatever you want to call it by psychology terms. Is to know that the brother is keeping secrets he don't want to say. He might in fact be too fearful to say. Is to know that mother does not care enough. She even said it herself when she was on the Shelby News, the Shelby Star, is that what it's called on YouTube? When I looked at that, on the Shelby Star or whatever their local news was, the mother said, just come home. We don't even care that you left. What mother doesn't care? We don't even care. What she was saying, we don't even care that you left and how you left. That in itself is almost telling on itself. Because what mother is not going to care that her child left, and more than likely how she left? Because see, all of this whole picture is in fact is pointing back to how she left. She said it herself. I seen it on YouTube. On YouTube, on the Shelby Star or whatever their local news is called, the woman was standing in front of somebody's house and said, just come home. We don't care how you left. She said something like that. Why you left, how you left. In the manner of that. The police need to see even my video. The woman said, this child's mother said, we don't care how you left, why you left. She said something in that manner, basically pertaining to she don't care why you left. As in she's saying that she can forgive that, but still, what parent says something like that? Because the why you left as well as how you left adds into the story of why did you leave in the very beginning. A parent that really love, trust, and understand her child will want to know how and why. Because to go missing all these years tell the how and why. So for a mother to not care, as in her saying she don't care about how and why she left, is to show something stands within that mother that even she's not telling, as in she possibly plays a part in this whole story of her child supposedly being taken, and yet the child might not even have left the four walls of that house, is what I'm trying to say. I never heard a parent out of all these missing kids. Remember, I'm almost 40 years old. I never heard a parent say out of their mouth full blown they don't care how and why their child was taken, with their child being missing as long as she's been missing. That's a problem in itself. Somebody need to talk to the police about that very sort of thing. Why is a woman having a child missing for over almost 19 years? Ain't we going into the 19-year mark? Or have we already surpassed that? How does a woman have a child go missing and be missing for over 19 years and say something out of her mouth on that on a local TV show about how she don't care? As if she's willing to forgive that the child has left. But even in that, it don't come across as I'm willing to forget. It comes across as I just don't care at all. What happened? As in a cover-up. Rewinding back without the play button. That in itself stood out. See, there's various things about this family in which I myself, as even thousands of people, see that scope out and stand out about this woman. She herself is not right, and we take that for what it is. And the police need to know and even understand that. Maybe they already know. See, the best bet is for the police officer, many of them, is to stay quiet and gather their bits and pieces as they go along and not tell the public. And one day, we all will find out. But the mother, when she said that, I didn't know what to think. I paused and rewind the tape because I knew that I was seeing the very thing of which I was seeing while I was watching that YouTube video. That same thing, the Shelby Star, I believe that is what the name of the local, as I keep repeating, I have to repeat, because this information can be useful in investigation. I had to play the video back not once but twice and say, I know this mother is not showing right here on TV that she don't care. That's what I was thinking. And when I looked down in the comment section, some young guy said to the woman, he was commenting because of course he couldn't interact with her. So some man was commenting on the actual YouTube video which she was on, said, how could you not care? And what do you mean let police do their job? What if they are not completely doing their job? He basically was saying the same thing I was thinking. He was saying the same thing I was thinking. Of, you know what? This woman does not care about her child, because if she did, she would have not said that thing that she said about she does not care why you left. Who says that? A mother that really loved her missing child would never say anything out of her mouth. So to show that you're not caring on camera is to show, in fact, you could be the very person that did it. I'm saying the mother. See, because a grieving mother would never say anything like that. And yet the public let all that bypass their eyes. And yet to see and to know, hundreds of us, yes, I've talked to other individuals, to see and to know, as in to look into that very mother, what she stands, is to show she don't care at all. She don't. How could she care? She's not all over national TV doing interviews and doing Lifetime movies and filming it and making a big movie about it. She's not doing all that. because she don't want to bring attention on her home. So yes, the floorboard of the house. The house is the mystery in which it stands, even in her never leaving the home. I wonder, have any other parents ever left their home when their child was missing? Probably not, because they probably feel that the child is going to return one day. Who knows? And yet within that home stands all type of secrets that have yet to be pulled and gathered. That's probably hidden away in possibly Asia's little 9-year-old body, despite her being in her 20s now. Yes, her body, I'm sure, probably predicting, I'm probably almost absolutely right. That body could be somewhere within the four walls of that home. That's a mystery. Because see, you just don't find everything else and never one day find a body, and yet people have completely vanished. But to see a family like that, when I said the little brother is hiding something, yes, he is. Because to be a light sleeper is to know and understand what could take place in the middle of the night while you're standing there trying to sleep. O'Brien, or whatever his name is. He knows things he's not saying. The mother, she just looks like somewhat of a psychopath, because when you look into her eyes, it just, you can't even see them. She wears sunglasses like I see them, is what I'm trying to say. Why is that mother, well, the time that I seen her, but the picture that I seen when she was sitting there with the young girl's father on the sofa, she didn't have no sunglasses on. But even then, to look into her eyes is to say nothing is there. As in, nothing can be found, possibly not even a mind. I'm saying the mother. Something is not right upstairs. As my dad used to like to say. Upstairs, when something is a few measurements loose upstairs, it's a few cannonballs loose upstairs. Something is not right with that mother. And many of us from afar, in fact, actually see that very thing for what it is. Something's not right about the mother. She shows that she doesn't care. She shows almost that she has played a part in it. And she shows she don't really want people in her house. As in around her household, as in the news and everybody else, Fox, CNN, she doesn't want that. She puts up a fight with anybody, is what I'm trying to say, with anybody that tries to get in on this story, as in getting a piece, as in showing it off to the world so that the world can help her find her lost child. That's where she shows that she don't care. And then with that father, he seems kind of not right either. Something iffy about him in the manner of he's just not there. See, the mother seems not there mentally, like something is off mentally with her, right? And yet it's completely disguised right before the public's eyes. And yet the father, something about the volumes of him and his aura seems completely iffy. Like possible child molester, iffy, right? But there's a vacancy about him even in this story. Has there been interviews? Maybe I need to go back on this, as in backtrack. Has there been enough interviews of this father speaking up and talking straight into the camera, like I'm talking straight into this camera? Because to sit there and not fully present yourself as somebody, as in who you say you are, as in the father, present yourself for the world to see, is to constantly be speaking up forward, playing a man's role. And yet this man comes across a little bit too gentle in this story. Because see, a real father that really misses his child will be out everywhere, spreading awareness, bringing to the public, just as the mother will be. But remember, a man holds masculinity up underneath those clothes. And yet he feels so far away up out of the picture, as if he's not even there. As in nobody's home, knock, 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 nobody's home. That's what the father, his whole aura, demeanor speaks when I see him. I'm going to have to go back and check, as I said before, to see how many interviews that man himself have in fact said outside of just the mother. See, a mother can disguise all this murder, being abducted supposedly, and yet she probably never left. I'm saying Asia probably never left her home. A mother can be the type that went along with the show as in to help to murder her child and sit herself there in the place of being the vocal piece of the family, to the fact of she's so vocal she becoming the star of the show, the mother, that it helps the public's eye bypass her own husband sitting next to her because he's not saying enough. I can understand women sometimes can be very vocal, but I have in fact seen stories just enough for myself with my own eyes that when a child comes missing, the father speaks just as much as the mother does. And why ain't this father speaking just as much as his mother does? Something there is not being told, as in the saying, as in the delaying. The delay of something, the mystery, where it adds up. The father, his whole demeanor is completely as if it's not there. As if this whole family is not a package. As if it's just the mother and the young child, and yet the father is completely solely out of the picture. That's what I'm trying to say and show to you. Because to have a child and be a father, and you know it took your sperm enough to gather to make that child, as in the mother conceiving, it took a father's part on that end. It's for him to say as well as play his part of I'm here. Good evening, good afternoon, dear, hello world, CNN, broadcasters, come to my home, come within my home, me being the father that I am, come here, come scope this place out so that we can help in all this research to find my child. And yet that father is not saying enough. See, to start saying, I said this before and I'm repeating. I repeat because it's purpose to repeat. To show that you care enough to want to be found, as in the father helping to discover his own child, is to put himself out there vocally. When you want something found, you become very vocal because you yourself can not supposedly find your child alone, right? It takes the public in finding your child if she's in fact missing and you want her to return home. But to not put yourself out there as in the father, even himself, is to know something else is underneath that, not fully told. Police need to look into that. They need to study. See, the police, they need to study the quiet nature of that individual himself, and that being the father. Scope out why he's so quiet, as well as the mother. Scope out both of them. Because see, the mother, she can do all that attention to deflect her position away to the public. The mother could have murdered the child or had something to do with it and yet make all this noise and have flyers and banners or t-shirts made and go on this 26-mile walk. The mother could do that just enough to deflect attention away from her. And yet the father is something he's not saying. His demeanor is too quiet to be a man. Because yes, even men sometimes don't always show their emotion, profound emotions. And yet men still say, especially when the very thing which was close to them and which they love and adore, such as a daughter. Remember, most daughters, girls, are daddy girls. I was one. My dad had other sons. He had 2 other boys and possibly another one, right? And yet I was daddy's charm enough to know how daddies operate. Because remember, most girls that live in the house with a father, a daddy, often enough times become daddy's girls. They're in fact daddy's charms. And so a daddy is not going to play that, is what I'm trying to say about his child, his very daughter, going missing. Because if that little girl was in fact, because usually little boys become, what is the word for it? They cling on to their mommy, and little girls cling on to their daddy. And usually when a little girl comes up missing, a daddy will put up a hissy fit. That it's not enough to calm him down because his daughter has gone missing. And yet that father hasn't even done that. And if he has, he hasn't shown it in the light. Maybe he's too scared to show emotion. Who knows? And yet to go out in the rain in the middle of the night is to in fact carry an umbrella. As a child, I'm saying. And yet to not carry an umbrella is to know you could not in fact gotten that far as even 2 feet away from your own home, as in the premises, the 4 walls of your home, that house I'm speaking on. That family is it's like that family in that house is as if they're together, but they're completely disconnected. It's like they work together with whatever they're hiding, and yet emotionally they're disconnected. Because the mother, she comes across as completely disconnected. To not show you care for your child is to show there's no emotion there, as an emotional disconnection somewhere in the brain of that mother. For the father to be as quiet as he shows himself to be, not trying to place himself on TV, to bring awareness that, look, I am a masculine man, we will bring my child home, to never have that in the package, is to know that you're disconnected too from your own child. And then for the brother to not say anything, as in to keep secrets, is more than likely he's been told to keep the secret, if not threatened. So that's a disconnection as well. All 3 of these individuals seem to be completely emotionally disconnected from that little girl. They are. Trust me when I say that the mother, the father, and the son are completely emotionally disconnected from that child. They have to be. They have to be in order to let something like this go along this long, as in years, and not speak up and bring stuff forward as in some type of eyewitness news. Let's do a story. Let's let the whole world see I want my baby to come home. To not do all that, as in wanting to be portraying yourself something of which I don't even think there's love there in the home with the mother, and possibly not even with the father. Maybe with the brother, because he probably don't even understand it. He's been guided along the way, because to be that young is to mold a young mind, as in form them in the way you want them to go. Supposedly, like they say in the Bible, form a child in the way that him or her should go. Those words are in the Bible, right? To not bring attention and spotlight on your house, as in allowing others to come in and interview you, as well as place yourself in the spotlight on this TV globally and constantly, like every other family has done, is to show there is in fact an emotional disconnection from your own child. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I said I studied psychology 3 times. Hello. I studied regular psychology as well as abnormal psychology. To know, to have love for a child is to in fact be attached to that child. And an attached parent will want to go everywhere that child has gone. And when they go everywhere that child is gone, the very day that that child comes missing, as in disappearing, the very family which is attached, as in a mother, father, whoever, brother, when they are in fact attached to that child, they want to go everywhere, even in the child being missing, as it being lost, to be found. And yet to not speak up and be vocal where everybody can see you in interviews is to show there's no attachment there. The attachment is gone. It was gone from day one. Which could be why, in fact, maybe the possibility is the family possibly murdered the child. Because to have no love there, as in the attachment, is to just throw away, chop her body up, something crazy like that, Hannibal Lecter style, who knows? All I'm trying to say is, people that don't really form a proper attachment, say to their children, are the very ones sometimes that step in and kill their own kids. Because remember, they're not attached. So as it's happening, or when it does happen, they feel nothing. They can't. Remember, a psychology book tells you attachment and what happens when you form attachment with your child, or even if you don't form attachment with your child. If you want to know and understand psychology, Because remember, even in business plays out psychology. Yes, it does. Remember, you're interacting with human beings just like yourself. So psychology should even be studied even if you didn't go to college. You will have better relationships with those that are surrounding you is what I'm trying to say. But going back to what I'm saying about attachment. The floorboard, as in digging a hole in the floor. After I make this video and somebody watch it, they're going to take the time to scope out her house as in the actual layout. What type of house is this? Is it a 2-story house? It can't be a 3-story house. That will be what? A high rise? Asia mom and dad and brother. What type of house are they living in? I'm wondering. Because I was just thinking when I seen that man buried his wife in the floor, and I'm thinking, how do you, I'm still in question of that, which is why I made this video. How are you able to bury a body in the floorboard? That is something I myself would have never even thought of, that is being a possibility. When we were going to buy our house, that house that I was speaking on, and we found out that there was just dirt up underneath the house, I said, you know what, I was thinking to myself, this is not going to work as in owning that little bitty house. As small and as cute and perfect as it was. It looked like a house an old lady would have, because that's how tiny it was. But it wasn't a tiny house. But I got to thinking, just imagine if something break down or something, and say I myself would have to climb underneath that house. That's enough to spook me out, because I don't like spiders underneath those type of house, supposedly, because one of the last apartments I lived in, it, in fact, the layout of it was a 1-room studio apartment, right? So it didn't have a basement. But how it was made when I got internet put in, it took them an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, just to put my internet in, because they couldn't get a good signal once they set it up. And the guy had to literally go back up underneath. You got what I'm saying? Up underneath. And I asked him, oh, it is no way that I will be going up underneath none of that. I told him that was the very reason why me and mom didn't get that house. Not just because of moisture, but because if something happened in that house and you're forced, say, to not get a handyman, and you got to go up under that house yourself, that's a problem in itself. Because if you go down there, spiders can in fact await you, as in crawling on your face and on your head. That poses a problem. Yes, it does. Because if you're down there looking for something, a spider might in fact go down your mouth and go down your throat. That's sickening. But I think about it, that's completely sickening. It's gross, is what it is. So when I asked him, the guy that was doing the internet in order to do the hook or whatever, I asked him, what did you see when you were down there? He said he saw frozen spiders. And I was like, see, that's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. And not only that, I get to thinking about mice. See, on my YouTube channel, I spoke about that. I don't like mice. And how mice, in fact, got in our house. I don't like stuff like that. I don't like anything which has not been invited travel amongst me. It puts a fear in me and sets off a light of like being like a panic fear. That's what it does. So if you're up under something like that, say an apartment or whatnot, I need to get the word for it right. Apartment, house, that underneath it, mice can travel. And it's crazy because even when we was living in that apartment, I seen a mouse run past my foot. That's crazy. That was the second time that happened. The first time was at that house we lived in. It ran past me in the basement. I don't like stuff like that. What would you call? I need somebody to help me out with that one. The space under a house. Space under a house. A crawl space. That's what it is. A crawl space. I should remake this video. A crawl space. That is what it is. I just Googled it right here. Crawl space. You see that? I had to put in what is a space under a house. And what comes up is the crawl space. See, I didn't want my mom to get that house because of the insulation issue with the crawl space with that house. Because with it not having a basement, as I said before, if anything was to happen with that house, you forced upon yourself being a homeowner to go up under that. And I'm not trying to, Even though I like to dress, my favorite color is black, red, and white. Even though those is my color, even my car seats is that color. Even in my room is that color. But to be going in that type of area where you don't know what stands there, as in a mouse or even a rat or even a raccoon, is to leave it there. The crawl space. So that's what I was saying, going back to the beginning of what I said. Police need to find out. This is my third time repeating this. Repeat something is to know, even in 3 times, is to present clarity. The police need to see if there is a crawl space in that woman's house. And if it is, go and check it. Not only that, did I say before about the warranty? I mean, not the warranty. What is it? Not warranty. A warrant. A lot of times, don't you need a warrant to go within the 4 walls of a house, as in presenting paperwork to say why you're there? I know police, they're good at handling that as well, but they need to like get a warrant type of thing and go within the 4 walls of that house and check and see if there's a crawl space. If that woman is living in the house and say there's no upstairs, that would in fact show you and tell you she has a crawl space up underneath that house, which is might be where Asia's body might in fact be found. Who knows? A crawl space. And even DNA, even if they tried to hide, even if they say tried to hide the body there and then try to relocate it somewhere, even DNA can be found there. So if the woman is living in a 1-story house, a 1-room shack, no, I'm just playing. If a woman is living if she's living in a house and it's a 1-floor house with maybe an upstairs and yet there's a crawl space, the police need to even blacklight that crawl space if she has one. See, if the woman has a crawl space and say somebody was to move Asia's body, if it was even there, seeming she ain't nowhere to be found, and yet the family look completely suspect, the family needs to take a black light down there if there is in fact a crawl space. Because to move something is to not know that it could be there in the form of DNA as well. See, you just don't like walk out of a house and say, okay, that's it for the day, now packing up and moving on. You gotta go back. You gotta go back. If there's an attic in that house, I would even search there, because supposedly some of these houses, whatever house she was standing next to, I couldn't even really tell the layout because the camera couldn't zoom up enough for me to see if there was 2 stories to that house. But somebody might put a body in the attic. Not only that, my very question is, I should have asked this from the beginning. A body that is 60 pounds, that is 4 foot 6 inches, how long does it take before that body start to smell? As in the stench, as in the fumes of the body, the gases, as in wasting away of the body. How long does it take for the body to actually say the smell of it, the reek and grossness of a body, dead body? How long would it take for that body's scent to linger throughout the house? I'm sorry, but I'm trying to figure out in a way how to say this. How long would it take for the stench of a dead body, such as that girl's if she's dead, how long would it take for a stench to move throughout the 4 walls of that house from her dead body? I'm in question of that. As in the step trying to figure out. If somebody was to visit that house and say the girl's body was there, is there a way for somebody to possibly cover up that scent of a dead body? That's what I'm needing to know, because It's strange. Something about that whole environment and the look in the mother's eyes and everything is just completely, it weirds you out, as it freaks you out. She's the type of individual, I'm saying the mother and even the father, but the mother more so. She's the type of individual who you in fact would not want to stand next to, because something about her is completely leery, as in it freaks you out, as something that's completely untold. She comes across as kind of like dangerous, is what I'm trying to say, the mom. And yet that part hasn't even been told. But to look through something from the outside is to completely see it. It's a vibe that somebody gives off that sets off alarms throughout your body, such as intuition, let you know, bling, 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 ding, 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 ding. Something is wrong there with the mother. From the other side of this camera, if I was to see her in public, she's the type of individual I will see her and walk the other way, because something there in itself stands like death or something. I don't know. She has a scary demeanor. The mother has almost an intimidation type of demeanor, as if she doesn't fear even the police themselves, because to say you don't care that people are investigating you is to almost tell on yourself. You have an intimidating type of demeanor in which you in fact like to intimidate others, which make you question, could the mother in fact have been beating maybe on her own children and the father? What mother stands in a video which I saw, the Shelby Star, whatever that was, what mother literally stands there and says, who cares that you're investigating me? Because if you really cared about this situation, you would keep your mouth closed altogether. And yet that mother seemed to keep outing herself every time she opens her mouth. It's like she's putting up some type of front, which can't be fully gathered, and yet to bring pieces together is to say that mother has an intimidation vibe. Because to go up against the authority, that is something myself I would never do. That type of thing you go to jail for. Because see, even police read facial expressions. They read everything. That's their job. So for the mother to get on a news channel, local news channel, Shelby Star, whatever, and say she don't care that she's being looked at and even investigated, it's to show she's putting on an intimidation front to you, that she cares nothing even about police coming after her. That's a problem in itself. That shows something is wrong there with her demeanor. Because see, even the mother who cares about her child and know that even the mother who cares about her child and her child is still unfound, and the mother herself knows she's being investigated, she would know to take it upon her say to never say something like that, as in those words of saying, I don't care that you guys are investigating me. Why would a mother say something like that if she's not guilty? Why would a mother even take it upon herself to say out her very own mouth, I don't care if y'all are investigating me? She's talking about the public, police, and everybody. I don't care that y'all are investigating me. Why would she say something like that? Unless she's guilty. See, people who are unafraid and being found guilty say those very words and don't care, while they're putting up a front of showing some false and fake emotion of that they want their child to come home. Bring my child home. Oh, bring my child home. You can't really care that much if you said you don't care how she left. Because if you cared, you would actually in fact want to know. We all want to know. Because the police, if they were to find that girl tomorrow, that will be the very question police will in fact ask that child, Asia, who is now a grown woman. The police, if the girl came up to be seen after being missing all these years, the very number one question, even the investigation would have to play out. The police will ask Asia to her face, what happened? So for a mother to say that she don't care what happened, is to show she don't care at all. Listen to me when I say this. The answer will come later. The answer would in fact come later. That's what I'm trying to say. People don't get it. They don't understand. I had to get quiet for a minute because when I'm thinking over this whole situation, see, people like myself as well as others has said, you know what? This mother doesn't look right. I was saying that along myself. Every time you see the mother and she start talking, it makes you pause is what I'm trying to say, which is the very reason why I paused. Something is wrong there. As in a connection. As in no moving further, as in away from the house. As in she's been completely scoped out. Her mother has somewhat of a mean streak within her. Yes, she does. She has a mean streak. Police need to look into that. That mother has a mean streak, and yet she don't even know it's presented when she talk and open her mouth. Everything all on that mother's face and everywhere screams and hollers meanness. Because see, a person with a laid back demeanor, such as mine or anybody else, right? If they don't care that they're being investigated, they won't say. Because remember, they're laid back. They don't care. And I can understand a mother would possibly get upset. Whose mother wouldn't? And knowing that the police is investigating and more investigating them. Who mother wouldn't probably, or even father, what mother wouldn't probably get upset knowing she's being investigated by police, knowing that she might in fact get angry because that is her child, and she loved that child supposedly enough that will make any mother mad, right? To know that she's being investigated, enough to say that she's being investigated, and she's mad because in all this, the child is not coming home, and yet and still, a mother would not be so mad and infuriated to the fact that she come out within that same sentence enough to say, I don't care why you left. I don't care why you left. See, somebody on CNN need to question this. Yes, they do. They need to question the very thing of what I'm questioning, and yet nobody hasn't. Except for me and that young guy that was on YouTube that seen that with our very two eyes, that something about that was not right when she said it. He said it, how could you not care? Aren't you afraid that police is not doing their job enough? But even before I got to that actual YouTube video enough to see it, I felt she didn't care from the beginning. She doesn't show it. You don't show it. See, because even a mother that really cared for her child, if a mother really cared for her child, even before all this got started, as in a disappearance, the mother would have taken it upon herself to ask herself the question of, why is my child sleeping on the floor next to my son's bed? And would have even asked her child that question as well. A mother that really loves and understands her child would have loved to know and understand and see that something is wrong even about that behavior of her own child sleeping next to her son's bed. A mother would say, okay, why is my young daughter not sleeping in her bed, but she's sleeping next to O'Brien's bed? Is she scared of something? Is she scared of the dark? What is she in fact scared of to make her want to sleep next to my son's bed instead of sleeping next to her own bed? Because a young mother would question that. And not only that, a young mother would in fact take it upon herself to go lay in that bed with that child, no matter what time of night it is. She would ask her child, why do you feel you need to sleep on the floor next to O'Brien's bed? Not only that, what I'll do, being your mother, seeming I love you so much, I would in fact come into your bedroom at night, the mother, and cuddle with you until you fall asleep. Yes, mothers do that. You see it in movies. We all know we got family members that do that. If a mother know that her child is, say, afraid of the dark enough to go sleep next to her brother's bed, which that needs to stand in question, the mother will take her time to go lay in the bed with the daughter and say, I'm here for you. If you need me, let me cuddle you until you fall asleep. And then when that young child, that girl, Asia, fall asleep, the mother pull the cover over her, the mother turn the lights out, and the mother go into her own room and go to bed herself. That's how you handle a situation like that if you feel something is going wrong in a bedroom. I'm thinking, wouldn't you think that? Or if the mother really cared and say loved her child, the child might have said, I'm terrified of sleeping in the dark. If she was scared of, she could have turned on the light. If Asia was afraid of the dark, she could have turned on the light or had a night light that the mother placed there, or somebody took it upon themselves to look outside of themselves and place that there. Even that too need to be in question. Other sleeping in the dark and her being afraid. If a mother really cared and say she knew her child was afraid to sleep in the dark, what that mother would have did, or even that father, if they really loved that young child, was to say, you know what? You need to come in the room with us and get in the middle of the bed until you fall asleep. That's what they should have did. Somebody should have brought the little girl, their daughter, into the parents' bedroom and let her sleep in the middle in between them. And possibly waited until she fell asleep, and one of them picked her up and put her back in her room as she slept and pulled the cover on her, said goodnight, silently, as many parents do, and then close the door and go back to bed. If you know something is wrong there with the child, and possibly it could have been even in the area of that room, right, and her possibly being afraid of the dark, who knows? Or her might not even wanting to be in that room because something could have been going on in the room in the middle of the night. As in her sleeping with her father or her sleeping with her brother sexually, as in sexual activity, as in a sexual affair. She could have been playing the role of a mistress, is what I'm trying to say. And yet nobody's questioning that because of her age. Yes, young girls once again have been known to play the role of a mistress to their adult grown father, because remember, to be guided in that activity, as in sexual molestation, is to never say. As in her father could have guided her into that. See, the story goes all type of ways. You can scope it out, and even the detectives have to scope it out. And yet nobody seems to want to completely question the family. To start saying stuff is to bring pieces out. Oop, just dropped a piece of pie on the floor. Somebody better pick it up, as in listen to what I'm saying. If a mother really cares for her child, if a father even cares for his child, or even a brother cares for a child, knew from the beginning something was wrong with Asia, as in going on. Because see, a little child just doesn't feel frantic about something or even want to run away. Supposedly. More likely she never left the home. To know that something is going on with that child is to see it, as in the day-to-day affairs. A child sooner or later will start to show. Even if she's acting secretive despite being timid. A mother could pick that up. More so than a father can. I'm saying in the area of a child being secretive, a mother knows. Remember, a mother actually, in fact, expelled that baby through the womb. So a mother knows. They always say trust a mother's intuition, right? So a mother knows if somebody was trying to creep around with her child even at night, in the middle of the night. A mother knows. Because that's a mother's intuition. You can't tell me that a mother, in fact, took the time to go through labor and have a baby, as in carry a baby, her own child, for 9 months, and not been once able to ever scope that individual out, as in her child and the other possible person making that child be a victim in the area of sleeping around and creeping with her even in the night. A mother had to know that thing. Mothers know all type of things about their children, and yet they don't even speak on it. They know, trust me. Ask any mother of what they felt about their child during different seasons and stages of life of that child. Because to be connected to something spiritually, as in your own child, is to say and sometimes not say. Right? That in itself could in fact be a gift from the universe of even a child and the mother being spiritually attached. That way, the mother always knows where the child is. I think the universe, whoever created this earth and all beings, created us to be like that, so that we don't go too far out away from the very people we are connected to. It's almost like an internal spiritual GPS guide. That's what I'm trying to say. Because for a mother to have deep intuition on her children, and sometimes the children are not even at home with her, it's to know for the mother to know and understand where the child is at, and sometimes even what they're doing. Because there have been known people who have actually prevented their loved ones from getting in a car, and yet their loved ones is either way overseas somewhere or in a whole different state visiting someone, and yet a mother's intuition went off to say, you know what, don't get in the car, because she saw a car accident happen before it happened. That's a mother's intuition. So how could that intuition be traceable as in tracked in that far a distance, and the mother preventing her child from getting in a car crash in which she's seen before, right? And yet a mother not scope that very thing going on in her house. And yet she's sitting and laying in a bed away from her child, but she's still in the same environment, sharing the same space. How could a mother not know? That in itself is the questionable. It's questionable. I think that's all to be said about that. It's questionable, because every time I look at this whole situation, I am like, why is this family not making noise? To go missing is to make a lot of noise until somebody is to come back home and be found. Yet not even them is nowhere to be found except for on that walk. You mean tell me you a family that thinks taking a walk once a year is enough? That is not enough. Because remember, to see a family, grieving family, supposedly grieving, to see a family one time is to see them that one time and then forget about them, as in the story. Because what is not seen a lot of times is forgotten. And yet to want to be finding something is to never be forgotten by constantly putting your face there. The family, I'm saying. One of the reasons why, see, I remember I was in college even then. I was just starting out in college when this situation, months before it happened. Her stuff happened in February. I was just starting in college the end of that year for the very first time. Yes, I was. That was the first time I heard of the story, and somewhat of one of the last times I heard of that story. Her stuff happened in February. I went to college the end of that year. I heard it around that time of the year, somewhere around the summer. That year, yes, I did. I heard it later than when it came out, just because the family wasn't vocal enough. That's what I'm trying to say. To want something to be found is to constantly say. But the show, hold on, wait a minute. The show you don't want something to be found is to leave it a mystery, as in only taking a walk, as in the family once a year. Because to not put yourself out there constantly is to never be seen, as in to be forgotten, which I feel and believe that's what the family in fact wants. They want this whole thing to be forgotten. And yet they don't want to pull away too far back, as in stopping those walks once a year, because even that will make themselves look suspicious. That could be why they set that up, that walk. See, to be investigated enough and know that you are, the parents, the family, and the mother more so than anybody, to know that you're being investigated enough is to put up a front in the form of a walk. Let's walk from home out the 26 miles where that book bag was found, or that bag was found full of Asia's clothes. Because to not do something like that, as well as not show that you want media attention, is to, in fact, be found guilty. And the police, I'm sure, know even that. The police, see, the family have no choice now, seeming they set that up and probably is fronting it, as in it's fake, the tears and all that, the animation, putting on a fake front. See, the family, more than likely probably the mother, set up that walk, as I said before, to take the attention off themselves, as well as to put the attention on themselves a bit, because they're not getting out here on these news channels. So they know they got to stay somewhere in the public arena to be seen enough to not look suspicious. Peep it out. I got the mind of almost a genius. If you want to know information, ask about it. I'm into marketing research as well as market research. Those two are two different things, and yet could be used once in the same, because one is for markets and yet the other is for selling, as in marketing. And yet in order to sell, you got to understand the market. So I'm completely firm in the area of researching. Need some research done? Ask me on it. That's why I'm standing right here on camera, because I've researched this information to know enough to know that something is not right about this story, as in the telling. If the family was to completely walk away, as in stop doing their yearly walks, that would completely make them look suspicious, because they're not trying to be on CNN or even on national TV everywhere being seen in the first place. So they got to put on some type of front to make it look like they're in fact there, because to not be there is to remain suspicious, as in the very family themselves. So to take a walk is to put attention on yourself, as well as take attention away from yourself. I bet the walks probably was set up on purpose. It was, I'm sure it was. That walk that they take was probably set up on purpose. Believe me when I say. The walks is probably to draw you in, to draw you away. Listen to that. The walks that the family take is probably to draw you in, to draw you away. Because to be too suspicious and know is to know something is completely hidden there. And yet, once again, that mother knows she's under investigation constantly, which is why she said it in the first place. And so she needs something in order to place the attention on herself. That mother needs something enough to put the attention on herself, enough to drive the attention away. And what better way to do it but to go take a walk every around the anniversary of the time that Asia went missing, which is the February 7th or the 6th. People do that type of stuff. That in itself is a mystery, as in the walk. Could she be doing that so that y'all can focus on the fact that she's supposedly grieving and yet she's not? And she wants you to focus on her, that way she don't look so suspicious. Because see, to show that you're walking in remembrance of something is to not look so suspicious. And yet an outsider could see straight through that. Many of us are. Many of us are looking straight through that. I heard and seen somebody said, and yet they don't want to get on camera. I seen somebody say something about that mother is not right. And not only that, the very thing we are looking at is the crime itself. That's what that individual was saying. And yet they're too afraid to make a YouTube account. They don't even know the family, but once again, to look at something from far away is to tell it and see it for what it is. Remember, we're visual beings. We can look at a commercial and see that it is in fact manipulation in that commercial. I'm saying like a Pepsi commercial. A Pepsi commercial sometimes try to get you to buy something by playing on your emotions, right? They say, this Pepsi is the best thing for you, right? This Pepsi is this and this Pepsi is that. Come drink up, come buy Pepsi. That's a Pepsi commercial. That's almost as if The family is doing the same thing because something about that mother speaks of intimidation. She shows, when I scope that mother out, she freaks me out looking at her. But she has one of those. The mother has a demeanor of one of those southern, let me see. The mother has a demeanor of a southern, I will beat you. I will beat you if you talk back to me. That's the type of demeanor the mother has. I will hit you upside the head, or I will slap you in the face, young child, if you ever talk back to me. That's the type of demeanor she has. And not only that, she seemed to have that demeanor possibly with grown men. The mother could in fact be an abuser, as in beating on her family and hitting kids and stuff upside the head, because to say you don't care, as she said, I don't care that y'all investigating me, to be saying all that is to know you are in fact a intimidator. Because who in their right mind, first of all, check a mind of an individual. Ain't nobody in their right mind going to get on a news channel or even a blog or even a daytime TV show and come out her mouth full blown at full of steam saying, I don't care that y'all investigating me. Who does that? That's not right mind activity is what I'm saying. I ain't never seen nobody. That's the first time I've ever seen something like that. Of a mother just getting on TV saying she don't care that y'all investigating me, as in current, right? It has dripping all over that has intimidation, as in she's the type of individual that likes to intimidate people or something. That stuff is not a laughing game. I don't find that laughing at all, because to be an intimidating type of individual is to know you could have in fact beat somebody upside the head with something, and even your own child. And on top of that, that child could have in fact have been being molested by somebody, a father, somebody. You never know about people's parents. People do all type of things that we don't know of. We be in the public because we're so far away. And you have to look in on something is to be like, man, that situation in that house is messy. It had to be, because it smells a mess. It smells a mess and it smells of death. And yet the mother, she has like a mean streak written all over her, more so than the father does. The father has a nonchalant demeanor, just like the mother has a nonchalant demeanor. The mother has a nonchalant demeanor in the area of her not caring. The mother has a nonchalant demeanor of her not caring, but still what sits on top of all that is almost like a mean streak demeanor. Like she's the type of individual that would go into a fit of rage if somebody said something and did something that she don't like. That's what I'm trying to say and get at. The mother. To read into something, that's to see it, man. I keep saying that. And yet nobody else seems to see it. They just keep questioning, well, why don't she get on the news? I'm asking, why does she intimidate people like police officers? The mother seems like the type of person, and I think that she's using that whole when it comes to national being seen, as in her child being missing and her not wanting to get on TV and all these local news channels and even get on Lifetime and do stories and do movies on her child being missing so she can bring it to the public's awareness bigger than what it already is. That mother could either be using blackness, when she said white children get more spotlight than black kids who have gone missing. That's what the mother said. She could have in fact been using that for an excuse, so that everybody would kind of like not come closer into the family to scope it out, right? As in pushing them away to deflect. So you can use even that to deflect. Saying, well, the reason why I haven't said more, me and my family, is because the media is saying half truths, and yet the mother still has not came out and said all of the truth. But on top of that, she wants to use black children as an excuse for now why she's not doing the very thing she should be doing, as in getting more attention from news agencies and all them other ones that span all around the globe so everybody can see it. Either she's using the blackness for an excuse, or that mother is one of those pro-black people. And when I say pro-black, I mean one of them individuals that worship pro-black material. As in the individual that will get violent enough with police officers to say I'm black and I'm proud and screaming and shout it, right? But also take it upon herself to say, so what, you're intimidating, or so what, you're investigating me. See, pro-black people, a lot of times, they don't fear police officers enough to say to the police officer's face, so what? And even on TV to say, so what, you're investigating me. And even say it to the public, because see, many of these black people, sometimes when their kids go missing, a lot of times white people show more interest than even black people. Because remember, when it comes to statistics and percentages as a whole, the pie, the graph, everything, there's more white people in America than there are black people to begin with. See what I'm saying? This black woman don't even know the numbers of that. So the mother could be the type of individual, when she said that black children are not given as much spotlight when missing as white kids, the black mother could in fact be one of those pro-black individuals that will put up a fight with, say, police officers, right? In the area of, if she's investigated and being investigated, she speaks on it. Because she hates that type of thing, because she hates the nature of police. Because remember, she's black. Pro-black people a lot of times hate police. They do. And yet to be scoped out by a police officer is to say it, which is the very thing in which she has done. To fit pieces together is to understand. Because I kept questioning, why would this mother... I keep repeating this. I wish it was some type of way I would have done a video with a few people right here with me in this room, so we can question this together, the fact that don't make sense. See, to get more people in on this type of thing, as you sitting along making a video about this, a long 2.5-hour video, is to seek out answers. Why would a mother take it upon herself to say, I don't care that y'all investigating me? She put it out there. Those weren't her exact words, or she don't care. But she kind of was saying, so what, I don't care that y'all investigating me. And then in the same sentence going into the end of the video, she said, just bring her home. I don't care why she left, meaning her own child. She said those two things. Those two things is like almost telling on yourself. It is. It is. And the other thing that's strange to me was when she said they didn't have a computer, because when she would look, they didn't have a computer because when she would look on TV, the whole situation, she, in a sense, possibly didn't want to own a computer in their home because of pedophiles. That's what she said. She didn't really want to get a computer for the simple fact of, when she would see on TV, many kids will go missing or will be lured in because of pedophile through the internet, right? And yet, even back then, I think it was smaller chances in that young child even if she would have owned the internet, I think it would have been small chances for even Asia to be lured in through the internet. See, I had internet since like 1995, 96. And yet internet wasn't all booming like that. Social media and all this other stuff really didn't start to get booming until 2008, 2009. A little bit before, but more so 2008, 2009, where you had MySpace somewhere around 2005, 2006, I'm thinking. But even MySpace wasn't really completely booming like that. It was and it wasn't. Facebook more so. If you want to go find a pedophile, it's to go lurk on Facebook somewhere. But even back then, when people was using Facebook, children wasn't even on there, is what I'm trying to say. Facebook wasn't entirely booming somewhere into around 2008, 2009, where just anybody was getting on there, even young kids. It wasn't popular all like that because, see, college students was using it, business executive was using it, as well as CEOs that work for corporations was using it, as well as college staff. It was solely entirely invented for that thing in the first place. To network is to keep up with those like you in the area of business. Facebook wasn't created from the beginning to be going and running as it is, where anybody could be getting on there and following and friending each other like it is today. That sort of thing wasn't really popping off until 2008, 2009 is what I'm trying to say. Somewhere around 2007, 2008, 2009 is where many individuals of all kinds, nationalities, races, practices, and everything, when they start to get on there and intermingle outside of business activity, when they start to get on there and do stupid, foolish stuff, even the pedophiles. So for her to say she didn't want to have a computer in the house in the year of 2000 or even before has to spell something right, even something wrong about that. Even either she couldn't have been able to afford, maybe she couldn't afford a computer and she just didn't say it. Maybe the mother couldn't afford a computer but knew other people had one and she just couldn't say it because she didn't want people going into her financial detail or why she couldn't afford a computer, right? Because, see, internet, once again, there was not a whole lot of stuff banging on children just coming up missing real heavy and deep in the year of around that time frame. Remember, that was the late 90s going into the early 2000s. Some people was just making their way around the computer like that, even pedophiles. To advance in technology is for it to take off years later, is what I'm trying to say. Enough to be found. Because where would have Asia, if social media, that was way back in 2000, right? That was way back in 2000. If MySpace didn't come later, to around 2003, 2001, 2004, whenever MySpace came, and even Facebook and Twitter, all that didn't come till years later, then where would Asia have gone at that young age at 9 years old, creeping around on the internet? I'm saying, what forum would she actually have put herself into in order to be found by one of those type of men if technology wasn't advanced until years later? That stands a question in itself. Because we didn't even have Skype back then. We didn't have Skype back then. We didn't have Facebook back then. We didn't have Twitter back then. We didn't have Instagram back then. We really didn't have YouTube back then. So the only way to be discovered is, say, through a forum or something. If she's speaking on that, then I can understand somewhat of it. But even that don't sound right. Because to cover something, sometimes even to say, even in that, something about that didn't even sound right when she said about when she, will turn on the TV, pedophiles. Because it almost seems like she's trying to deflect the fact that a pedophile could possibly stand within the four walls of her home. So to say something like that is, once again, deflect the attention off of you. It just seemed like this whole story of how they're misleading the public just all seems like a deflection, everything. Even in the area where she said to not have a computer is to prevent pedophiles from luring children, right, away from her home. That's why she didn't have a computer. that just seems like a deflection away from her and her family. It does. To mention a pedophile. Because we all know today, see, that's what's the interesting part in the piece, missing links. We all know right now technology is at its advancement, and yet we know all right now pedophiles is all over Facebook and everywhere, which right there presents the mystery, as in what the mother has said, right? There's all type of parents all around us that know that pedophiles have always existed, and even back then, which is possibly why some parents didn't buy computers back then, because of that very thing. And yet many more parents is allowing their children to be on Facebook and everywhere else. Does this not sound right, or does it? I'm thinking, where would a 9-year-old go online on the internet to run into a pedophile? Would she have enough knowledge to say, you know what, let me go into this forum right here? Because see, it was even parents back then that had internet in their home. Even my parents allowed me to have internet in our home. Remember, I had internet since I was about 15, 16 years old. I had it that long. 1996, how far back is that? 95, 94. I had internet since I was about 15, 16 years old, right? Many of our parents had it. They allowed us to take over the computer while no one was home. And yet to be 9 years old is to not fully understand where to go on, say, an internet zine. Like a fan zine, being a fan of somebody. I don't think a 9-year-old will fully, completely even understand back then how to navigate internet, because it was all type of us even at our age that couldn't completely navigate. And yet nowadays parents been showing their children how to navigate, see stuff online, which is why many parents give their kids iPhones and stuff even at the age of 2-3 years old. They're helping them to navigate that. And yet to be 9 years old is to not fully know and understand how to navigate the internet fully. Unless, say, her brother would have helped her with that. That was just that was another thing that was interesting to me, was when that mother just came out and said, we don't have a computer because on the TV we saw about pedophiles. I was like, man, this mother stands out so much in the air, in the middle of the night. This mother stands out so much to say pedophile, to prevent a pedophile, because pedophiles was luring back then in them years, that time frame. It's almost to say that mother could have a pedophile in the four walls or her house once again, and to prevent police from checking is to say ahead of time, to deflect all the information away from you. It's something not right, man. I'm telling you. It's something completely not right. You can walk up and down some stairs on the individual and they don't even know. I'm saying the family. You can walk up and down the stairs on the individual and the family, they don't even know, in the area of scoping them. With this information, notice how I travel up and I come back down, as in trying to help and resolve the situation for what it actually is, man. I'm trying to tell you, a murder has happened within that house and the family has had something to do with it. Even to run circles without the family not even knowing. I'm saying, I'm standing right here running information all around this family in circles where other people is failing to pay attention, and yet nobody's paying attention. Listen to me when I say this. To travel up and down the stairs with information is to completely bypass the police where they're not looking, and yet you being the outsider looking in is to see that very thing and very nature for what it is and for what it stands. As in, the killer lives somewhere within that house. The four walls of that house, man, I'm telling you. And it's so good. It is so very good that they in fact cracked the case open instead of letting it go stalled as in a case cold standstill. Because even the police, I believe, know something in which they're not saying. I said that before, didn't I? How police hide information. Because see, police can't put out certain information because even if they start to tell too much, it's for that individual to go missing themselves, as in whoever was a supposed abductor, as in Skip Town or wherever craziness goes on. That's why the police don't put out information. And yet, once again, to show your face, as in instead of whispering behind and trying to help solve people, is to do it vocally. Because see, in some of these forums or whatever the type of stuff is, sometimes I hate sitting there trying to read stuff. It takes too long. Something like a camera, as what I got right here, this pad device, is to say what I'm going to say and leave it alone. And then allow somebody else to play it back where my voice can be heard. See what I'm saying? Because see, the written form, I am a writer as well as into market research and marketing. The written form is something that you can't carry along with you in the house. To listen. See, when you're walking around in the house, sometimes you have other things to do, such as cooking, cleaning, and stuff like that. And even investigators have stuff like that. But to carry a device where a person can hear, say someone, they can hear someone like me talking that is trying to put the pieces together where they fit. I'm saying an investigator. For a police officer to listen to me is to know he could carry his phone with him when he goes and doesn't have to sit looking and reading, which is why it would help more people on YouTube to get on the camera and speak and say these sort of things of what I'm saying instead of just typing it out. Nobody wants to sit and read what you done typed out when you can make it easier for all of us by allowing us to listen. That's why you got YouTubers right here on that have actually in fact created podcasts. Podcast is when you get on the when you get right here and you use yourself and your voice as a vehicle to be heard on the outside of you, presenting information in front of a microphone and as well as in front of a camcorder. So everybody can see you as well as hear you in what you have to say. And yet printed information, as in typed out information, does not help in that. You can't see emotion and everything. You can't see movement and all that, which is why I don't really like reading information. I like to see the very individual for what they are, where they stand. It's like watching the news. Even in research, somebody's going to say, well, you know, when I question if Asia, the little girl, could have in fact walked in the rain and then slipped and fell and banged her head and said somebody was driving down the street, noticed her, put her in the car and did something with her body. When I said that, somebody else actually spoke on that as well. On a forum, that finding, what is it called? I think it's called Finding Asia Degree. It's like a blog or something, some lady put together. But to read something like that, as in the theories, what they call them, because I've been through all the different web pages or whatnot trying to find information. To read that stuff is to not put emotion behind it, as in people being able to see your emotion and your facial expressions and the stories that you want to tell in order to be heard, right? So in a sense, it's not a connection completely. I like to be connected to things, as in seeing and understanding my eyes. Because when somebody is a vocal vehicle, they can fully express enough for you to attach to that very thing enough to say, I never thought about that and I never considered that. But the way and the manner, the speech pattern and the speech tone and in the way the individual said it is somewhat making me open my eyes to maybe I should in fact consider that. See, The written form doesn't really have emotion, and yet it does. But then again, it doesn't. It's just a flat surface with your eyes reading it, and your emotion has to kind of take up for the emotion that is there, but then again, not there. You got to take it upon yourself to put emotion into a written page, written format, even a book that you read. You know what I'm saying? But on camera, you don't, because the presenter presents emotion. That's what I'm trying to get to. That's why I like camera in place of written format. It's easier as well. See, all this information that I had took it upon myself enough to share, I wasn't going to sit anywhere on anybody's forum typing that information out. That takes too long. And not only that, it's a headache, because you got to go backward and forward and backward just to clean up what you needed to edit because you messed up in a typing error. You know what I'm saying? But to speak right here on camera is the most easiest thing. It is, because you can say what you want to say and you can edit it, but I ain't even got time for that. I ain't got time for any and no editing. We just gonna say what we gonna say, and whatever I mess up on, I just say, you know what, oops, a blooper, and go on. That's the way to solve and resolve that, because editing takes too long. It takes too long. It's too much work. I already got too much other stuff that I'm doing on the side. To be a writer already is to be doing too much of that on the side. So I had told myself from here on out, there's no more writing involved in the area of this case on my end, trying to put pieces together. From here on out, I do everything video wise, because as I said before, somebody can watch this and listen to it in their car as they're going to work or whatever, just like a podcast. And not only that, bits and pieces help to formulate in the area of investigation. See what I'm saying? Got to make things easier in life and not much more harder. Life is already hard as it is. But as well, to be on camcorder is to think stuff as well as you go, as in pieces, missing pieces, as in trying to find a link in this story. And sometimes when you go to write it down, thoughts are coming so quickly in with information that you can't get it all down, that you start to forget. So it's always easiest to present a camcorder. Why do you think news reporters do that? I mean, some information they have written down, but sometimes they go on the fly. The reason why I'm able to do this sort of thing is because I used to be into music real heavily. Spoken word, yes, that was my thing, which is why I'm able to go along and string thoughts together without it being in written form. Because to do spoken word enough is to not really constantly messed up in the things in which you're going to say. You just, keep going and going in motion without stopping. I should have started YouTube years ago in this form and fashion. But you start when you're supposed. But going back to the story, I think in the end, all this is going to show out. Even if it take another 2 or 3 years, the case might even be solved by then. Who knows? Because to crack a case open sooner is to know police know something more about it. They have to. That's the only way to crack something open, is to know, despite it being a lead supposedly with that car, that green car, Lincoln or whatever it was, Lincoln Continental, that they can't seem to find. But police know something in which they're not even telling. It's all a mystery. It's a game that's a sickly game. It is. That's enough to make you sick and want to retire out on life in the area of not even want to watch the news anymore, not wanting to watch anything, because that type of thing, it put fears in you. I know it put fear in me. When I first was looking into this, I was like, I was scared to even walk through my own house, for the simple fact of the whole house of them people's house, the family, is a mystery. Ugh. You just don't know, man, about people. You don't know. I said that. It gives me the creeps to know you could be standing among somebody like that in the grocery store. But that's all to be said. Police need to take that black light into that household and scope out that family more and let it be told, so all this could be put to rest. And so even those family members who are related to Asia can infect their soul could be put to rest. I'm saying because just because, say, if family members in that house murder her, I'm sure outside family members might not even know. As an extended family, they might not know. And so to not know is to be full of anxiety. Her family, her grandmother, all of them. And so to give them some peace in the middle of sorrow is to in fact solve it as well, so they can no longer grieve. I'm sure the family probably cared more about this little girl than their own household did. That's it. What do you think? Like this, share this, as well as subscribe to this, and be a blessing to yourself as be a blessing and witness to others, as in share the detail. Something is going on that we ain't been told about.